Great games at your table. I'm Jonathan Albin, and this is Game Master Soapbox. Today we are actually going to address what I think is one of the most dynamic topics that we can cover in a place where we are talking about games. And I suppose this is exactly the kind of topic that, I'm going to start that over. Let's just try this again. Take two. I'm Jonathan Albin. This is Nikos RPG, and we are at an impasse. This is Game Master Soapbox, where we generally talk about things about games from the standpoint of being a storyteller and trying to assist you as the viewer to make your games exceptional. And today I'm going to be talking about something that's a little less comfortable than usual. I'm going to talk about the elephant in the room. Now, if you don't see him or aren't aware of him, that's okay. I'll bring him to your attention in just a moment. But before that, if you would go down below and press all the buttons so that the algorithm will know that you're part of our audience. Let's go.
Absorbing damage is the name of the game.
All right. Well, the cat is out of the bag. The elephant is out of the bag, I suppose. The question is, why are we playing games? This is the 21st century, and there are so many other things to become involved with that arguably have a greater impact or importance on your life. And again, simply put, why are we playing? What is the purpose, and why are we doing this? And what is it we're trying to pursue when we play games? Now, I list here the obvious one, which is the fact that there is a desire to be happy, and we derive our happiness moment by moment by the things that we do that we enjoy doing. And of course, gameplay falls into that category. But we're going to be looking at this from a different perspective, I think, than you might have expected to see on a channel about games and roleplay in particular. And I will endeavor to link it back in from time to time during the conversation. But the deeper question is, what is it that makes us happy? What is it that defines our joy? And how do we attain that in any kind of a lasting way? And is it possible for us to ever truly be happy? Let's explore this together, shall we? So, of course, the first question is, how do we define happiness? What is it that makes us happy? What is it that gives us joy? And how we define it really gives us a solid understanding of what is happiness to us individually. And when we pursue this concept, we have to look at the different nuances of what happiness might be. Does it come from one source or another, or is it a panoply that has to be attacked from multiple angles? And so today we're going to be discussing some of the different ways that happiness can occur. And I realize that, again, this is not necessarily a specific role-playing issue, because people in all walks of life are looking for happiness. But I'm endeavoring to at least provide some ways that we can consider what it is, and perhaps in the way that role players consider their situations, we'll actually look at this from an external standpoint, so that we can actually find it for ourselves as individuals. One of the most common is the idea of being comfortable. If you have everything that you need to be happy, if you have all of the needs met, then you can reside in that place of comfortability. And the challenge is that comfort is usually counterbalanced by desire, because there's always seems to be something that if we had only one more of these things, we would be more happy. We would be more fulfilled if we could have just that one more thing. So comfort itself seems to be elusive because we may achieve it for a time, and yet once we've achieved it, it becomes almost burdensome to maintain that same level of comfort, because there's always something more to be had or something else that we don't have. So realize, therefore, that when we talk about comfort, it's a relative position, and therefore it changes from time to time. So it's hard to use comfort by its own nature as a metric for what is happiness, because ultimately comfort leads to discomfort because there's something else that we could be reaching for beyond. So let's consider just the elements of that. The concept of not having need, or not having empty spaces in our lives, but instead look for ways to be as comfortable as we can be as we proceed to pursue this concept of happiness. Well, of course, they say that money can't buy happiness, but as Weird Al Yankovic would say, at least you can rent it. And the point here again is that wealth is a relative term. If you have X dollars, X plus one is more than you have, and so therefore there's always something else that you could desire beyond what you have. And so if comfort is not a complete answer to the question, neither is wealth, because again, wealth is as elusive as it seems. If you look at the people who have a lot, they always seem to be looking for more, and those that don't have much are always looking for something. And so therefore the term wealth becomes relative. And just as in the pursuit of comfort, we have to also look at it from the standpoint of we can always pursue money, but the pursuit of wealth is as elusive as anything else, because once you have it, even if you have it at a level that seems inordinate, there's always more to be had. Okay, and freedom. This is a great one, and this one applies in many cases. The idea of being unburdened, of not having an obligation to do something for someone else. The idea of being at liberty to take any action you would want. And again, sounds logical, sounds simple. We should be able to find it. Matter of fact, in the United States, there's the huge economical push to look for financial freedom, to look for the place where all of your bills are paid for, and all of that. And when we speak of this freedom, we almost always are tying it to one or more of the other elements that we've talked about. You can't be free if you are not comfortable. If there's not things that make your life palatable as it is, there's always going to be something else that you're going to be searching for that will take you and bind you into that obligation to pursue, and that itself is almost the antithesis of this very concept of freedom. If we're free from all obligations, then it means we don't have any ties to them, and if we don't have no ties to them, then there is no way for us to hold meaning in that way. And so freedom, just as these others, I think you're seeing a pattern here. There is an elusiveness to freedom, because even if you have freedom, it's still limited by what possibilities there are, and there's always something else that you might be able to do that you simply cannot because of the situation you find yourself in. Knowledge is another one that we believe that if we just simply know the answers to all of life's questions, we won't have any challenges and we'll be able to be happy. But knowledge itself is opening doors and opening windows into awareness that we haven't had before, and every one of those provides us with, therefore, the idea that there's something else to be known. And it's as difficult to say that you have achieved a happy level of knowledge as anything else. It's even if you learn everything there is to know on a subject, there are still many more subjects to know, right? So therefore, knowledge is not going to be a panacea. If anything, it'll make you more aware of the things that you currently do not have. And so therefore, it's not the solution, even though it would seem like it should be. And when we talk about control, this is talking about the control of your days, your hours, your minutes, but it also has to do with people in your life. If everybody would just get along, we'd be better off, right? We'd all be happier. But the reality is that means that somebody would be abrogating some control in order for others to have it. And so again, we're seeing this continuous pattern, and I might be in the process of beating a dead horse, but I think you're seeing where we're headed with this. Control isn't going to give happiness any more than any of the others, simply because there's always more of it to be had and new ways to pursue it that make it difficult for it to be the final solution. And of course, if you're in a position where you have these things, as a matter of fact, I've made several comments in previous videos about the life that I live is as happy as it can possibly be because I have many of these things. There's obviously things that I don't have. These two would be some of them because people don't know who I am or even care. But the idea that we would somehow be happier if we were adored, or that if we had other people that would consider us to be someone to be looked up to, they are themselves the same kind of a problematic pursuit, because when is enough? When do you have enough adoration? When do you have enough prestige to be happy? Because all of these are things that themselves are forms of pursuit. You don't become a icon if you don't put yourself out there. You don't gain prestige unless you have something worth hearing that you're presenting. And so when we are looking for this elusive happiness, we're not going to find it in these areas any more than the others, because they too are things that must be garnered, gleaned, and followed through on to be useful to us. So when you come down to it, the reality is that the only way to be happy is to live. And that doesn't mean we have the concept of happiness in a lock. There's no place where it says, here's the off button, you've gotten everything you need, let's call it a day. The idea is that every moment of our lives we're active beings. We are living in a time frame that is itself motile. We have to therefore be able to adapt and change and modify constantly. Now they say that happiness is unattainable, but I disagree. I think that you can become happy, but it's a matter of managing all of these other pursuits. You have to be working on your levels of respect that others might have towards you. You need to work on your ability to adapt to the lack of or excess of control in your life. Because ultimately, when you have enough control on your own being, then you're separate from the rest of the world. And when you're separate from the rest of the world, you're going to be missing out on the camaraderie and the other ways of being happy. And so the idea is that the ultimate test of our existence is to find ways to become happy or be happy in the world as it has represented itself to us, and to attempt to accomplish the achievement of these things holistically. That you're not going to be grabbing all of them at the same time, but some of them are going to provide you happiness where others are going to be letting you down, and you have to adjust and move and modify. And this is no different really than any other test of humanity. When we want to be accomplished, we have to do practice. If we want to be revered, we have to be someone worthy of that reverence. So therefore, when you come down to it, the elephant in the room in this case is, how do we be happy? How do we become what we want to be? And the answer is in the question. We have to become. We have to be in the process of advancing in order to achieve any of them. If we sit upon our hands and wait for this happiness to mystically occur, we're going to be missing out on the very elements from which we could derive that happiness. So I guess I only shared this because today it was on my heart that I've been working for a really long time on trying to become known in the world and to have people see the merit or the value in role playing that I do. And this has been kind of a comeuppance, I suppose, for me to get to the point where it's really understanding that it's the pursuit, the very angle of trying to achieve these things that brings it to us. And so I want to thank you for being here for today, for listening to this episode, and I will see you all in the next one. Remember, we record Mondays through Fridays at 10 a.m. and 11 p.m. Pacific generally. And we will talk to you later.